When disaster strikes, one of the most crucial decisions you can make is whether to stay put or evacuate. This decision, often referred to as bugging in versus bugging out, can mean the difference between safety and danger. Both strategies have their advantages and disadvantages, and understanding them can help you make an informed choice in times of crisis. Crisis or disasters are unpredictable, but what you do when it happens can determine your safety. So for you to make an informed decision, you need to understand what bugging in or bugging out means. So, what exactly is bugging in? Bugging in means staying in your home or a secure location during a disaster. It involves fortifying your residence, gathering supplies, and preparing to ride out the event in familiar surroundings. Whenever possible, sheltering in place is usually the safest option. First, most of your supplies will likely be at your primary residence. Second, you'll generally have a higher level of security inside your home compared to being out on the streets. So what are some advantages of bugging in? Firstly, there's familiarity and comfort. Your home provides a known environment, reducing the stress and anxiety that can accompany a disaster. You also have resource availability, meaning you have access to all your stored supplies, including food, water, medical supplies, and tools. Homes can often be more secure and easier to fortify than temporary shelters or open spaces. And let's not forget community support. Staying put allows you to rely on neighbors and local networks for support and resources. Having mentioned all these advantages of bugging in, on the flip side there are some disadvantages, like there's the risk of isolation. If the situation worsens, you might become trapped without access to external help. Resource depletion is another concern. Prolonged disasters can deplete your supplies, leading to potential shortages. Homes can become targets for looters or desperate individuals. And depending on the nature of the disaster, you may face environmental hazards like flooding, fires, or chemical spills. In the book and film The Road by Cormac McCarthy, the characters initially try to stay put, but eventually realize they must leave their home to survive, illustrating the potential pitfalls of bugging in when resources run out. Now let's talk about bugging out. Bugging out involves evacuating your home to seek safety elsewhere. This requires a well-prepared plan, including a bug-out bag packed with essential supplies and a predetermined destination. While bugging out may be a real possibility you could face someday, I would strongly advise against simply heading into the wilderness. Even for the most experienced prepper, living in the wilderness full-time is not a viable survival plan. In my opinion, doing so sets you up for disaster and isn't a realistic approach to survival that anyone should consider. There are advantages of bugging out, including the fact that bugging out offers flexibility and mobility, allowing you to avoid imminent danger and move to a safer location. It can provide access to resources in areas with more abundant or safer supplies. It helps in avoiding hazards like environmental dangers or violent conflicts. And you might find better living conditions and support networks elsewhere. Having said all of that, there are significant disadvantages to bugging out. These includes the fact that bugging out comes with uncertainty. The journey can be unpredictable, with potential dangers along the way. Limited supplies are a challenge, as carrying all necessary items can be difficult. You also face the risk of exposure to elements, illnesses, and other threats. Plus, the stress and physical exertion of bugging out can take a toll on your well-being. The television series The Walking Dead often shows characters bugging out from various locations, highlighting both the dangers of the journey and the necessity of mobility in certain scenarios. Having said all of these, there are some real-life examples and consequences of what happens when people decide to either bug in or bug out. Take for instance, during Hurricane Katrina in 2005, many residents of New Orleans chose to bug in, staying in their homes or seeking shelter in local facilities. While some were able to survive the storm and subsequent flooding, others faced severe shortages of food, water, and medical supplies. The isolation and slow response from rescue operations underscored the risks associated with bugging in during a large-scale disaster. When it comes to bugging out, consider the 2011 Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in Japan, which prompted a large-scale bug-out. Residents within a 20-kilometer radius were evacuated to avoid radiation exposure. This decision saved lives, but also highlighted challenges such as crowded evacuation centers, logistical difficulties, and the emotional stress of displacement. So, how do you make the right decision? Consider the following. Nature of the disaster. Assess the type and scale of the event. Natural disasters, like hurricanes or floods, might necessitate bugging out, while civil unrest or pandemics might be better managed by bugging in. Location and resources. Evaluate your home's safety, your community's stability, and the availability of resources. An urban setting might be more dangerous, whereas a rural area might offer more opportunities for self-sufficiency. Health and mobility. Consider the physical and mental health of yourself and your family. Bugging out requires stamina and resilience, whereas bugging in requires resourcefulness and patience. Preparedness. Ensure you have a plan and necessary supplies for both scenarios. A well-stocked bug-out bag and a fortified home can provide flexibility in your decision-making. So when choosing between bugging in and bugging out, you should understand that this is a critical survival decision with profound implications. By understanding the advantages and disadvantages of each approach, you can better prepare for emergencies and increase your chances of survival. Whether you decide to stay put or hit the road, the key is to stay informed, be adaptable, and always have a plan. Talking about having a plan, have you ever wondered what critical steps to take to survive a disaster? Watch the next video.